Hello and welcome to The Left Wing. We're still here at the Stade de France. Well, that certainly lived up to its billing, lads, isn't it?
Yes.
Like, where do you start?
Speechless.
Where do you start?
Answer the question, yes, and more.
And
Like
more, I think, yeah.
I'm racking my brains. You were in New Zealand for the Test series. I've been to some incredible games of rugby before. I've been to World Cup finals. Been very lucky to be at some incredible sporting events. I'm struggling to really find anything that lives with that game. And obviously, we're still sitting in the stadium. It's only an hour or two ago. We all want to watch it again and try and kind of understand what happened.
After a lie down,
there.
I feel I need
After
to lie down first.
Yeah, that would be nice. I don't know what time we're going out here, but 1:05 right now. It was a stunning sporting event, a stunning occasion that befitted this World Cup. Two, if not the two best teams in the world, two of the three best teams in the world who lived up to their billing, who could very easily find themselves back at a final in 4 or 5 weeks' time if things go their way. And a remarkable game that had absolutely everything. The whole week we were there was talking points coming out of our ears all week, and they were all there. Yeah. You know, the breakdown was a big talking about, the line-out was a big talking about, you know, the scrums, goal kicking, all of it, the bench, whether it worked, whether it's not. We're going to be talking about this again it's going to dominate. I mean, it's just as well Ireland have no game next week because we're going to have so much fallout. So it was incredible, Sinead, and the Irish crowd were phenomenal,
unbelievable,
and the South African crowd played their part as well. But to be at the Stade de France for a neutral occasion like that with so many Irish people there,
was it the best atmosphere for a game you've ever been at?
It was right up there with some of the All-Ireland finals I've been to, and some of the just the great occasions that I've been lucky to be at. I mean, I can't think of anything better right now, but I mean, that's possibly recency bias, but it'll live forever.
Yeah.
But as Johnny Sexton said in the post-match, Ireland have won big pool matches before. Now it's time to kick on, because this team have just proven that if they improve, because they will have to improve, they are capable of winning this competition.
Yeah, and like that was definitely the sense from Johnny Sexton and Andy Farrell, who I thought once again were both a picture of calm, as they were all week, and there was no sense of anyone getting ahead of themselves after the match here. I think in the press conference they were both asked, one by a Kiwi journalist and one by a French journalist, about, you know, who they'd rather face in a quarter-final, and they both gave the right answer, that they have to concentrate in Scotland because, like Rod says and Johnny Sexton alluded to, they've been here before by winning big pool games. I suppose, like, I was thinking back to the France 2015 game, but remarkably there doesn't seem to have been any injuries, which is amazing when you think of the physicality was off the charts throughout from minute one. So that adds to massively to the good news, because if Ireland had come out of this with 3, 4, 5 injuries, then you are kind of going, like, was it worth it and things like that. So I agree. I thought the occasion, we spoke about it before the match in terms of how the fans were mingling, and when Johnny Sexton, whatever about us, like, he has been involved in some occasions. I was asking him about this in the press conference. Obviously when you think of Johnny Sexton in moments, you think of Le Drop in 2018 en route to winning the Grand Slam, and perhaps as an individual moment that might still stand alone, but Johnny Sexton was putting tonight right up there. I mean, it's not about the individual moments for him. He's the Ireland captain now, and I think there is a sense that the platform and the confidence that they can take from beating this South Africa team, because okay, there were elements of that they were left off the hook by some sloppy goal kicking, by the line out, you know, not properly capitalising on the line out when Dion Ferrari came on and threw a crooked line out. All those things, like Rod said, we've been discussing throughout the week, didn't quite work. But we spent so much time, and rightfully so, talking about the 7-1 split, but we were adamant, and I remember talking about this with you guys the day before the team was announced, that the Irish bench, like I've been saying it all week, had so much quality of their own, and it got overlooked. I mean, like a guy like Dan Sheehan to come back, I mean, arguably the best hooker in the world, Ian Henderson to come on, and I thought it was a brave decision by Andy Farrell to take off James Ryan as well as Ronan Kelleher. You don't often see James Ryan coming off in big games like that. He's the main line-out caller. So when Farrell took James Ryan and Kelleher off, you took off your hooker, your thrower obviously, and the line-out caller. So that meant you had Sheehan throwing it in, and Ian Henderson became the line-out caller. And from there, it just looked really smooth. And it's certainly not a blame on Ronan Kelleher, James Ryan, and Johnny Sexton was quick to say that after the match as well. But it was a big call by Andy Farrell, and he had the utmost faith in his bench. Robbie Henshaw coming on again. Just unbelievable, and like some of the standout performers, I think it's worth mentioning. I mean, Bundee Aki probably should have been on for 3 Man of the Match awards in a row, which is insane, really. Like we've spoken about it, you wrote a great piece, Sinead, today talking about Andy Friend. I mean, he's shown now that it's not just against the likes of a Romania and a Tonga. He did it against the big boys of South Africa. So many standout performers. I thought Gary Ringrose, while he was on the pitch, was just absolutely immense. His defensive shift that he put in quite often gets overlooked, but it was so important. And that defensive grit, I think Andy Farrell didn't touch on it afterwards, didn't he? That was a real
resilience was one of the first words he mentioned, and it
was a real Andy Farrell. You think back of Andy Farrell, the defence coach, and I know Simon Easterby's coming in, done a really good job on that, but that was a real gritty, hard Andy Farrell performance. And I know the attacking stuff is brilliant that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, and the try that they scored was really good as well. Mac Hansen's try, but
just got it in
just about. Yeah, I didn't think he thought the dead ball line was a bit longer than it was, but the grit and the defensive nous that they showed up against like such a brilliant team. There were so many moments in the game where you thought South Africa were going to get over, and Ireland found a way. Yeah,
let's just hear now from Andy Farrell, and also the question that you asked to Johnny Sexton as well.
Our resilience, which has been really good of late anyway, as you could imagine, but that was a proper game, a traditional game that it had absolutely everything, and there was ebbs and flows and ups and downs, and how we managed to stay on point mentally, I thought was fantastic. The game was never going to be perfect. First half, I thought we had the rub of the green as far as field position is concerned, and probably didn't capitalise on that a little bit. But it was certainly roles reversed, wasn't it, in the second half? But how we kept our heads, getting those couple of penalties at the end when it really mattered, is the big plus side of our performance.
You know, I said that we've had some big days before in terms of results in the pools, but I've never ever seen a crowd like that. Someone said 30,000 fans.
Yeah,
there was no way there was 30,000. It wouldn't surprise me if there was 60. And they were insane throughout. They gave us the lifts that we needed. And honestly, it's not lost on us. We talk about it a lot, about inspiring those people that put their hand in their pocket week after week. They probably saved for 4 years to come here, and there's something we refer to all the time, and I mean that we play for them, and they gave us the edge tonight, I think. So fair play to them.
I think I was giving you a few elbows during the game there, Cian, was I?
I was worried about your heart rate, Sinead, at one point, but we got through it. I was sitting in between both of you, and there was emotions were...
Oh, we coming at you from both sides.
Emotions were running high. I think everyone, I mean, it was hard not to get caught up.
I just get stressed with my word count. Trying to fit a report at 800 words is pretty difficult tonight. There's so much happened. I mean, even...
The last 10 minutes, Rory, as well. So, I mean,
the flow of the game,
whole game.
It's one of those games that just took on a life of its own, and it needed big moments. And I'm thinking about Bundee Aki's turnover in the first half. That if South Africa had gone 10-0 up at that point, game over maybe. Like I know Ireland can score heavily, but I'm not sure they were scoring too heavily in that game. But they went up the pitch. Khaleesi makes 2 knock-ons in a row. Suddenly Ireland go up. They score, and then in the second half, Caelan D'Arce's counter-ruck, which wins the ball back. Ireland go up, then they win a scrum penalty. I'm pretty sure, and look, I'm sure people in the YouTube comments will correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure that 6 points came off scrum penalties, which is remarkable considering they were under the absolute pump. But every time they brought on a replacement, the scrum just shored itself up a little bit more. I think like the last 10 minutes, Ireland wrested control of the momentum back into the games, and all of that work they did in New Zealand that they've done with Gary Keegan, with Andy Farrell, in terms of like the adversity stuff that we looked at in the Six Nations, that they've been putting all these things in place. They have an ability to roll with the punches and come back even stronger, which is remarkable, and they needed every inch of it today. Now look, they got off the hook in some regards. 11 points left out there. South Africa's goal kicking strategy was weird, because if you don't have a recognised goal kicker, what are you doing taking points from 50, 51, 52 metres when you have got a really good line out? Just kick to the corner and maul Ireland to death. I mean, I think South Africa will learn a awful lot for this as well. If they play each other again, they'll know what to do. I thought the fact that they picked 4 scrum halves in their squad come back to bite them as well. Dion Fury did okay, but at the pivotal moment threw one in crooked. They need a second hooker. They don't have one. That's bizarre. I mean, there's a lot that South Africa will take. There's a lot that Ireland will take. They can both get better, and that will be scary for all of the other teams in this tournament.
Yeah, the place kicking was the first question asked to Jacques Nienaber in the press conference there, and then the second one was about Andre Pollard.
I would be shocked if Andre Pollard isn't playing next week against Tonga. Certainly when it comes to the knockout stages, I just don't think you can win a World Cup without. Of course, you can't without a goal kicker. Particularly the way South Africa play, and I agree with Rod. I think so much of this week has been about Ireland remaining focused and not too concerned about what South Africa were doing. They designed a 7-1 bench split. They didn't get concerned about that. Ireland are in South Africa's heads. I mean, we hear zombie ringing around, in your head, but it's Ireland who are in South Africa's heads without a shadow of a doubt. You think that they've changed their strategy. I mean, like Rod said, they don't have a goal kicker. If it's Pollard, fair enough, it's worth the shots, and they do like to build points 3-6-9. But the fact that South Africa were taking the kicks at goal and not trying to take them on up front, which is, you think back to what La Rochelle have done to Leinster, what our Ireland teams have struggled with over the years, it's that power game. And they went away from it. I don't know for what reason, but that was a huge win for Ireland.
But they were doing that against Scotland as well, and France are doing it as well, whereas Ireland are going to try and score in sevens, and Ireland should have scored more tries. They were very close on a couple of occasions. Their attack functioned quite well, but they didn't quite take their points. That's an area of growth. Their line-out, losing the first 4, it's very impressive that they problem solved their way out of it. Same with the scrum, but maybe don't lose the first 4 next time. Maybe fix that, and you're giving yourself a real shot, because if you have Faf de Klerk throwing the ball out in the first minute, well, then you got to score off it, because that's a massive opportunity. That's room for growth. Jack Conlan's coming back. Dan Sheehan's got a game under his belt. There is huge reasons for optimism around this team. At the same time, I'm not sure you can give South Africa the ins that they gave if you have Pollard there. I would France and South Africa are still present some of the physical problems that Ireland just can't necessarily solve, and I think South Africa will feel they let Ireland off the hook. I know Nienaber said Ireland were the better team tonight, and at the breakdown they were, and the breakdown was a massive source of strength for Ireland, and Tadhg was magnificent in that area. Caelan Doris was huge. Aki, James Lowe won a turnover. Conor Murray won a turnover. Conor Murray was brilliant off the bench.
He was fantastic,
But I think Ireland need to improve to kind of capitalise on what they've given themselves now, because they've put themselves 1 point away from a quarter final, most likely against New Zealand. But New Zealand, we saw what inside knowledge did to the Irish line-out tonight. John Klein knows the calls. It was, they read the Irish line-out in the first few minutes. They obviously changed it up after that. Well, Joe Schmidt knows everything about these Irish players, and New Zealand will be dangerous, even though I don't think they're as good as any of the top 3 teams. So the tournament's open for them, but they have to keep getting better. And the good thing was, it sounded like they're learning that lesson.
Absolutely, and I think the fact that we are sitting here almost not trying to pick holes, but you're looking at the room for improvement, because you can be sure that's what Andy Farrell and Johnny Sexton and all the coaches are going to do. But I think there is an element of that. This is cup rugby, and you do whatever it takes to win, and Ireland did that tonight. And I think you did mention it, Rod, and I agree that I think Ireland will feel like it, particularly in the first half, that when they got into the red zone, they were just a little bit sloppy, which they have been at times in the first 2 games as well. But if one or two of those passes stick, then it could be a very different game. So I think it's hugely encouraging. And one other moment I think we should mention, you mentioned several of them there, was James Lowe on Etzebeth. I mean, that tackle was I
got Etzebeth in the mix on. And he didn't want to talk to an Irish person.
Yeah, I
heard it was the worst. It's never coming off my dictaphone, because there's no point. He just didn't want to talk. It was grunts, and he didn't want to come over. He didn't want to talk. He was angry.
He was probably his pride got dented by that James Lowe tackle.
Absolutely.
And that's a big moment for an Irish team. Like I said, the defensive grit, and that when you have your winger knocking the biggest enforcer in world rugby, I thought it was a huge moment that probably typified Ireland's guts and determination.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ireland will be self-critical. I know we were a wardrobe malfunction away from nearly turning up dressed as a tricolour here, but we're not here to wave the flag and be cheerleaders.
That was off the record.
But they will be hypercritical. They're off for a couple of days now. They go back. Some of them go back to tour. Some of them are going to Disneyland with their families. They've got a nice break. Lovely time to do it. Get that win, and suddenly and then they regroup. They start the tournament again, and they come back to Paris in 2 weeks' time to play Scotland. The Scotland team they know they can beat, but they still have to perform to beat them. They're in a brilliant place at this stage of the tournament.
Is that them kicking us out of here, is it?
No, that was just one of our friend from the Telegraph waving us goodbye. I did want to mention I met David Carberry, Joey Carberry's cousin, on my way down here, and he's a fan of the podcast, but he was waiting outside because his sister-in-law, I think he said her name was Louise Crowley, basically when there's in the celebrations at the end, about 5 Irish lads landed on top of her, and she's heading to hospital tonight, so hope she's okay. So I think dislocated hip was the talk. So that was a poor end for their night, but they enjoyed the game up until that point. So we wanted to wish her well. But I mean, the scenes at the end,
they were
the music,
amazing.
A night that we'll never forget, but it can't be the high point for
No.
Ireland. That's the thing, because we've been here before. We've been here with the win over Australia in 11, the win over France. that Cian referenced. It didn't take as much of a toll, but this Irish team feel different, and that's what's so exciting about them.
Yeah, no, it sure is. Well, we'll get into this even more again next week, but I think we've got to head home, lads. Get that lie down.
Get that
And your
last
voice
round.
is going, Sinead.
My voice is going. I wonder why.
Too much zombie.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thanks for listening.